It is now my honor and pleasure to introduce our speaker, Andrew Bozeman. Reverend Andrew Bozeman and his wife Sandy live in Cheektowaga with their little cat, Apollo. They lived in San Francisco for 35 years before returning to Sandy's hometown of Buffalo in 2018. Andrew is from Chicago. He has 2 adult sons, one in Orlando, Florida, the other in Des Moines, Iowa. Andrew is a veteran of the U.S. Air Force and a member of the First Spiritualist Temple. In 1982, he was ordained in San Francisco's Church of Amron. He holds a Bachelor of Metaphysical Sciences degree from the University of Metaphysics in Sedona, Arizona, where he was ordained in the International Metaphysical Ministry, and he is working on his master's degree. Andrew has lived an active and productive life, working in many different fields, experiencing prosperous times as well as very challenging times in the various chapters of his life. He has worked in major advertising agencies as a writer and a producer. He's been an actor, a movie screenwriter, computer programmer, and corporate management consultant. In his free time, he taught meditation and self-esteem to San Quentin prison inmates. He retired as the Director of Technical Training for the City and County of San Francisco in 2002. Then he established the Southeast Sector Community Development Corporation in the minority community of San Francisco. He created the functional forgiveness system to teach people how to access and apply the energy known as forgiveness. Last spring, he taught the functional forgiveness workshop here for many of us in this church. He also teaches a workshop called Working with Angels, which I mentioned before he will be doing here in the fall. He has written 2 books and recorded an angelic meditation tape. Andrew is on our reception committee, and he has submitted a proposal to be reviewed by the membership at our annual meeting. And this has to do with the foyer of our temple. So please, folks, open your minds and open your hearts to the words and wisdom of the Reverend Andrew Bozeman.
At last! Spring is here. Problem is, it's also spring cleaning time. It's time to clean out all the cobwebs, to throw out all the old stuff that has accumulated, to put everything in order. It can be hard and tedious work, but I saw a great tweet about using vodka to clean the house. It really works. In fact, the more vodka I drank, the cleaner the house was. You know, one of the great things about spring is the way life begins to burst forth all around us. The colors, the fragrances. It's a beautiful thing to behold. You know, I didn't really see that much of it in California because it's always green. It's sort of a dull green, actually. But here, we go from the seasons of death and nothing there, and then all of a sudden everything springs forth, and it's bright and it's beautiful. Spring presents physical evidence of the validity of our first 2 principles. Number 1, we believe in infinite intelligence. And number 2, we believe that the phenomena of nature, both physical and spiritual, are the expression of infinite intelligence. I depend a lot on infinite intelligence. Usually, when I produce my daily program called On the Wings of Your Mind, I don't know what I'm going to talk about until I wake up in the morning. Then I usually get a message telling me what the subject of the day is going to be. Now that message comes in either in the form of images or in a whispering inside my head. So a few days ago, as my mind was rising up out of sleep, I got a couple of images. The first image was a pile of wooden children's playing blocks, you know, the ones with the A, B, C on them. Then the next to that pile of blocks appeared a tall stack or tower of those playing blocks neatly stacked upon each other, going higher and higher. The next image I got was a pile of bricks. And then next to that pile of bricks there appeared a solid brick wall. So I interpreted that message as instructions to talk about order. And actually the subject of this whole week has been order. It's been repeated to me on TV, on the internet, on the radio, in music, all over the place. And the definition of order is the arrangement or disposition of people or things in relation to each other according to a particular sequence, pattern, or method. Some of us gravitate very easily to order. Others find that order is an inconvenience. For me, as a child, order was very definitely an inconvenience. I was very opposed to order. It kept getting in the way of things I wanted to do, like go outside and play, or finish reading a fascinating book of science fiction, or watch a television show that was playing now and only now and it would never be shown again. At least I believed that. But back then we only had 3 channels and we didn't have DVRs. So for me, the inconvenient demands of order required me to make up my bed, or pick up my clothes off the floor, or put things back where I got them when I was finished using them, or scrape the dishes after a meal, and then, insult of insults, to actually wash the dishes. I hated order. I can remember thinking that when I grow up, I wasn't going to have to do those silly things in the name of order. But by the time I finally grew up, it was too late to change it. I was too thoroughly conditioned. Those teachings about order had become ingrained in my mind and my body. So now after washing my clothes, I automatically fold them and put them in the drawer because that's just the way I do it automatically. Of course, order looks different to different people. One person may see order as organized and neat, but another person may see order as something that might appear to be chaotic and disorganized. Each has its own way of order. If you would see my office, it would seem chaotic and disorganized, but you wouldn't be completely right. I mean, it is organized to fit the way my mind works. If I need to find something in one of those stacks of paper, my mind knows what stack to go to and find what I'm looking for. So order, in one form or another, is an integral part of our lives. Our bodies perform billions of functions per second in coordinated order. Our automobiles cannot operate without order. Our military, of which I was a part for a while, does not function without order. We can't get away from it. We're surrounded by order. Except maybe when it comes to our spiritual practices. You know, in the world of spirit, order is even more critical, believe it or not, than it is in the physical world. It's more critical because in the realm of spirit, infinite intelligence is more reactive. It is more responsive. In the realm of spirit, your thoughts and your words have power. Every thought and every word. Let me repeat that. In the world of spirit, your thoughts and words have power. Every thought and every word. Some people upon hearing that will start to think, well, if that's true, why isn't my life better? I can see their point. How many of us have thought about what it would be like to be millionaires or to win the lottery? But remember I said in the realm of spirit, your thoughts and words have power. Every thought and every word. So every time that thought about becoming a millionaire pops up, there was probably another thought immediately following that said, that could never happen. So the first thought was canceled by the second. Or for every thought that today is going to be a wonderful day, another thought comes along and says, God, I hope I don't have to deal with that so-and-so today. That will ruin my day. The first thought is canceled by the second. So, I'll say it again. In the realm of spirit, your thoughts and words have power. Every thought and every word. Now, most of our minds are like that pile of bricks or that pile of playing blocks. They're a chaotic collection of commands that are packed together and going nowhere. Take the electric light bulb. The electric light bulb. It generates light, but it's chaotic light. It goes in all directions at once in order to light every corner of the room. So its only effect is to illuminate the room. That is the extent of its power. But when a laser beam is turned on, it's also generating light. But it is light that is focused. It's called coherent light, because all the light rays are going in exactly the same direction and tightly focused into a powerful single beam. And that single beam can cut through steel. Coherent is defined as having the quality of holding together. I believe that those of us who know the truth, who know that infinite intelligence is all there is, have a mission to bring peace, the peace of this knowledge, to the world. Not by preaching to everyone we meet, but by the power of our presence that exudes love, peace, and harmony. But our presence can only become powerful if we learn to bring our minds into a state of coherence. That way, one thought is not canceled by another thought that follows it. When we seek to build a field of love, to bring the loving power of infinite intelligence into our lives and into the lives of those around us who are being influenced by our surrounding electromagnetic field. Remember, I've told you that our heart generates an electromagnetic field that extends several feet outside of our body. Then that love cannot be distracted and diminished by flashes of frustration or irritation or gloating because of some gossip. Coherence, bringing our thoughts into order as we build our spiritual practices, begins to build the power of our thoughts. Bringing order to our emotions as we send out energy of love from our hearts can have real healing effects on those around us if they're in order, instead of creating an atmosphere of confusion and mixed messages. We make that happen when we honor the commandment, know thyself. Learn to know yourself. Learn how your mind works. Learn what is important to you. Learn what you want, where you want to go, what you want to do in your life. Learning the answers to those questions begins to help you build a foundation or an anchor for yourself. And once you have that anchor, then you won't be distracted by every shiny little thing that pops into your vision, into your life. Getting to know yourself gives you the strength to bring order into your life and into your mind so that your thoughts and emotions become coherent and powerful. Then you can elevate yourself to a level of consciousness that may seem impossible to you before. Know thyself. Know thyself. It's a term that's been around for thousands of years. It's engraved in the caskets of ancient Egyptians. It was carved in the ancient Greek temple of the oracles of Delphi. It is the key to becoming all that we can hope to become. So how does one get to know oneself? Well, it's eventually necessary to break through the first level of power in order to do that. According to the teachings of Caroline Myss, the mystic and spiritual interpreter, the first level of power is known as tribal power. It is the influence of our families, our friends, our community, our traditions. Generally, we live our lives based upon what somebody else thinks our lives should be. So many of our life decisions are made for us before we are even old enough to make our own. And then we get so firmly implanted in that path that we don't seem to have a choice to change it. But the work of getting to know thyself requires us to break through that first level of power to the second level of power. And that level is the scary world of individual power. In the words of life coach and teacher Farnoosh Brock, not knowing yourself becomes obvious sooner or later. A quiet frustration lives in your heart when you do not know yourself. You may choose to live with it and ignore it, or you may choose to start getting to know yourself. So what are the steps involved? Well, number one is getting to know your personality, not what someone tells you you are, who someone tells you are. But as we embark upon that quest, mythologist called Joseph Campbell labels that the hero's journey. We must understand that those who seek to control us are just trying to protect us from the slings and arrow that life throws at us. They're just trying to keep us safe. But at some point, in order to become fully actualized, we must step out and face those challenges on our own. But when we do, it's also critical to recognize that even though you may be on your own, you are not alone. According to the words of the 91st Psalm, whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. Surely He will save you from the fowler's snare and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the plague that destroys at midday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. For me, it took a lot of years to get there. I spent a lot of time trying to be nice and trying to be liked and trying to fit in. I went along to get along. But finally it got to be more than I could handle. I was in a state of low-grade anger all the time, but I didn't realize it. I began getting clues, though, when I would overreact negatively to a situation and express anger that was more than the situation warranted. Eventually, I had to take time out from the world and spend some time being with me, by myself, to figure out what was going on and who I was. So when you look in the mirror every morning, is that person looking back really you? Step 2, get to know your core values. That was tough for me because I had no idea what a value actually was. But one clue is, what do others around you do that makes you uncomfortable? I was watching a movie the other day called The King of Staten Island, starring Pete Davidson. In it, the lead character's friends were going to break into a pharmacy to steal drugs, and they wanted him to be the lookout. He refused, and he declared that if you do this, then we're going to have to break off and not be friends anymore. And he refused and declared that was it. They tried to shame him into joining them because it had worked before. They'd call him chicken and they'd do something crazy with him. But this time he said no. They had violated one of his core values, honesty. So core values are personal ethics or ideals that guide you when making decisions, building relationships, and solving problems. Some values are honesty, compassion, integrity, generosity, optimism, loyalty, perseverance, and the desire to do the right thing. Number 3, get to know your body. Is your body happy being a couch potato? Most of us decide that we could never do something without ever trying to see if we really can. Is there some activity that you're curious about but never really tried because you were afraid you weren't going to be any good at it? I was in a meeting the other day with a group of entrepreneurs, and somehow the conversation got around to things they would never be able to do because they didn't have the skill or the training. And I told them they were really limiting themselves, and I shared with them the story of my discovery. You see, when I was a teenager, I was so clumsy. And one event that I'll never forget was I was playing volleyball in high school gym, and the ball was coming right at me, and I was ready to hit it back, but my hands were not close enough together, so the ball went right through to the floor, and everybody just stood there looking at me, and I wanted to sink into the floor. That was a strange time for me. I mean, sometimes I would even trip over my own feet. Of course, I later learned that's because my feet were growing so fast I couldn't control them. In one summer, my feet grew 2 shoe sizes. So, later on in life, many years later, I was part of a social group that liked to go out and they liked to play volleyball every weekend, but always insisted on sitting out, and they finally insisted that I play. He says, you can no longer sit out, you gotta join in the game. You gotta participate. So I said, okay, I'll do it. As I was playing along, all of a sudden I realized that my body was actually working in coordination. And I was beginning to have fun. And I was beginning to get good at it. And the next thing I knew, I became the star blocker for the team. Do you know what your body can do? Number 4, maintain a journal. Keep a written record of your life and your dreams. Journaling is entering or recording daily thoughts, experiences, etc. in a journal. Now, a lot of men are going to reject that because keeping a diary is a girl thing. But actually it isn't. Scientists keep journals in order to track the results of their experiments. Writers keep journals in order to record incidents and ideas that they can use later. News reporters, police officers, entrepreneurs, teachers, the list goes on and on, because the value in maintaining a journal is that the journal preserves experiences much better than your memory does. And if you want to grow mentally and emotionally, journals are great for keeping track of progress and setbacks, as well as important events. And as for recording your dreams, I've encountered people who say, I don't dream, or if I dream, I never remember it. Well, after I assign them the task of keeping a journal, before long, they actually start to remember their dreams. It's just that they never made that demand upon their minds to bring them forth. So, there are 4 things you can begin to do right now to bring your mind into order and follow the commandment, know thyself. 1, get to know your personality, not who someone else tells you you are. 2, get to know your core values. What do others around you do that makes you uncomfortable? 3, get to know your body. Is your body really happy being a couch potato? And 4, maintain a journal. Keep a written record of your daily life and your dreams. God, or as we call it, infinite intelligence, works through order and not chaos. If you want to take your life to a higher level, then you have to move yourself from being like the light bulb that scatters its energy in all directions into being like the laser beam that is focused and coherent. Which brings us to the final consideration, your physical surroundings. The physical act of cleaning is where our minds automatically go when we talk about spring cleaning. So the spiritual aspect of spring cleaning is this: if your surroundings are in chaos, then you are being robbed. You're being robbed of the benefits of free-flowing energy. Remember that image I saw when I woke up that morning? A pile of children's blocks, a pile of bricks. Well, that pile indicated chaos, because within that pile, energy was not free to flow. It kept bouncing off of things, going back upon itself. Energy cannot flow through chaos. Whereas the tower and the wall were in order, everything was lined up, so the energy was able to flow freely and quickly from one point to another. So, if you're surrounded by chaos, then that prevents your life from moving forward in a smooth, productive way. And that energy that can uplift you and lighten your mood is locked up. That energy that can feed your mind and help you think more clearly is locked up. That energy that can elevate your ambitions and your capabilities is all locked up in the chaos that surrounds you. It has nowhere to go. Our quest is to bring love and peace and harmony into this world. To do so, we must embrace order on multiple levels, because that is the only way that we can become powerful, transformational spiritual warriors. And as spiritual warriors, we can become channels for the healing energy of love that flows from infinite intelligence. And that flow is enhanced when we surround ourselves in our physical spaces with order. In closing, one of the things I learned during my years of spiritual training was the edict, you teach best what you need most to learn. It's a quote from the book, Illusions, The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah by Richard Bach. You teach best what you need most to learn. In the beginning of this talk, I probably said, if you would see my office, it would seem chaotic and disorganized. But you wouldn't be completely right. It's organized to fit the way my mind works. If I need to find something in those stacks of paper, my mind knows what stack to go to. Well, that's not actually true. There are times when I have to search through multiple stacks to find something, and sometimes it takes days to find it. So the message to teach about order was directed at me as well as at you. My rising sign of Virgo was probably going crazy because of the fact that the Virgo demands order and I sometimes resist that. So my job this week is to bring some order to my life, to my office, and get rid of those stacks. So I say to infinite intelligence, thank you, message received. So let us get on with it. Let us bring order and eliminate chaos, both within ourselves and within our surroundings. Order is the way that we expand our opportunities, the way we elevate our energy, the way we elevate our consciousness. Order, order, order takes us to the point where we can be all that we have come here to be.